Hi everyone, welcome to the Skills Future Work Study Fair 2020, organized by Singapore Polytechnic in partnership with Skills Future Singapore. My name is Winston, and today I'll be sharing with you a little bit more about the shipping industry. Now, commercial shipping is a lifeline industry for many of us around the world because it brings real tangible benefits for all of us. Let's just take Singapore for example. We have no natural resources, from the food that we eat, to the clothes that we wear, to even the cement, the sand, the steel that we use to build our houses. We need to import it, ship in from other countries. These are the real impacts that shipping have on us. This afternoon, I'll be sharing with you a little bit more about the ship owning, operating, and brokering within the maritime industries. And joining us here are our friends from the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers. First and foremost, we have Mr. Puneet Oza, the Vice Chairman of ICS. Please join me to welcome Mr. Oza.
Thank you so much. Very happy to be here.
And of course, the first thing that we would like to check with you, sir, right? I mean, you've had spent 25 years in the business. What made you decide to join this business?
Yeah, I think as you rightly pointed out, shipping is a lifeline industry. It's something which has really created value across years. It's also something that people normally don't hear much about. So you need to have some way of getting into it. In my case, it was some personal contacts. My uncle is in the shipping business.
Oh, that's nice.
And he's a ship agent based in India. And I think that was the first inkling that I had. He asked me to go and look at the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers courses, in fact. And I did the qualifications in 1992 and then started my first job in 1993. And that's how I got into shipping.
So it was like the first industry you joined and you never looked back?
Absolutely not. I think it's been a fantastic journey. So I really enjoyed myself. As you rightly mentioned, I've been in different tasks, including this digital transformation, because obviously that's the future of shipping as we see going forward.
That's nice. So next thing that I would like to check with you, I mean, how did you know? I mean, what are the things that you look out for in a career, and how do you know that shipping was actually the right path for you?
So somebody has said rightly that you have stages of how you look at progressing in your career. The first stage is the pleasure stage, where you actually are getting into a new industry, excited about it, and just trying to just learn and soak up as much knowledge as you can. The next stage is a little bit of engagement, where you actually get a chance to become a bit more senior, get a little bit more involved in decision making and actually taking some tangible changes. And finally, the meaning stage. That's where probably I am now, because as you can see, over the years, I've actually started looking at what is it that I'm doing, which is actually adding value literally to the business, the ecosystem, to clients, to customers. So the shipping industry, being a global industry, gives you the ability to offer this across the entire world. Very few industries actually have that global reach as the shipping industry has. So obviously that is a big part of the decision making from my side as to how much I've enjoyed the journey so far. I'm still enjoying it, obviously in a new role now with maritime arbitration.
That's nice. Okay, so now, the next thing, I mean, regarding this work-study program, right? So how would you, I mean, in what ways would you think it's a mutually beneficial, a win-win situation, right, for both the students as well as for the industry?
I think it's a fantastic program. It just goes to show one additional initiative from the Singapore government, which has actually been very positive. With regard to the WSP, specifically for ship owning, broking, and operating, it gives you the ability to get three things. First of all, you get a chance of getting some financial incentives for signing up. And that's about $5,000 sign-on fee for a Singaporean student to come into this program. And you get on-the-job training. I am a big believer in mentorship. The way I learned from my senior professionals when I joined the industry is becoming less and less today because of technology and other issues. So obviously, a mentoring on-the-job training is an integral part of WSP, which is a fantastic thing. Over the 18 months, you actually end up learning a lot of experience and practice skills. And to top it all, the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers will also provide the qualifications so that you can actually learn and take lessons, and at the end of the day, write the exams and get professional qualifications. So you have three things rolled into one. And that, I think, is a real win-win situation. The industry needs young talent, fresh talent all the time. what I thought was the in thing when I joined the industry is probably not even visible today.
Right.
And today, the younger people have a very different way of looking at trying to solve problems in a very different manner than what we used to solve 25 years ago. So influx of new people constantly needs to come in, and that's obviously a big, big plus with WSP for the industry.
Now, okay, just to have a better understanding, I mean, I'm sure some of our viewers, our friends who might be watching this video right now, they might be thinking, well, I mean, for the work-study program, I mean, does that mean that I will physically go onto the ship and, you know, be away from my family? I mean, how's that going to work? I mean, from the work point of view, I mean.
Sure. So let me explain a little bit of the work-study program. Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers Singapore branch is the program manager. So it has the primary responsibility of connecting the students with the companies. The companies obviously are most of the time are member companies or companies in which ICS members are working. So obviously there is a connection there also. What WSP will involve is basically 18 months on the job training. It may involve going and seeing ships, because obviously ships are the assets that you are dealing with every day in, day out. But you don't have to physically sail on the ship for a long period of time. Maybe when it's visiting Singapore for fueling up and things like that, you can actually go on board and see the ship. It's a fantastic experience.
Nice.
But the idea is the commercial shipping knowledge needs to be imparted on the job with actual experience. At the same time, also get theoretical understanding of the concepts, which is through the ICS qualifying examination. So it will involve both theory and practice together, but it will not involve sailing on the ships. No.
Thanks for sharing with us. Okay, so now for this work-study program that we are looking at, so who's eligible for it?
So Singaporeans and Singaporean students who are basically polytechnic graduates. There is a list of eligible courses that you can see here, and that basically is anybody who has passed it in the last 3 years. In case of NS men, you are basically 3 years from the operationally ready date that you get. And the minute you sign on, you have the ability to get the financial incentive. And if you're a PR, you are still eligible, but unfortunately there's no financial incentive. It's only for Singaporeans that you get the financial incentive. So if you are in one of the polytechnic courses which is eligible, which is qualifying, and you have just graduated from the poly, you are more than welcome to actually sign up with the ICS Singapore branch, which is basically managing this program.
Right. So of course, I think Singaporeans, you know, we actually have an added advantage. It's very, very nice.
Absolutely.
So now, next thing, I mean, ICS. I mean, what is the role of ICS, you know, in this entire program?
So ICS is basically, just to give you a bit of an idea on the ICS. ICS is a 100-year-old body. Like you have other professional qualifying organizations like the Institute of Chartered Accountants or Company Secretaries. Yeah. Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers is basically the only globally recognized qualification on commercial shipping. We have about 4,000 members globally, worldwide. And our Singapore branch, which I'm basically vice chairing now, is managing this WSP program as I said, as the main conduit to link up the companies with the students. Also making sure that there is an on-the-job training blueprint, which is given by the company, who's going to mentor the student, how are they going to actually do it. That is obviously something that ICS will be keeping an eye on. And at the same time, we will enroll the students into the training program or the education program of ICS to get the qualifications. ICS is running the whole gambit along with SKILLSFUTURE in a way of trying to make sure that we get a complete and total experience to the students going forward. So they are ready as a finished product or nearly finished product by the time they finish 18 months.
So literally what I'm hearing, it's by the time we finish this program, we should be able to hit the ground running from day one that we join our job.
Absolutely, and I think that's very crucial because as we always know in shipping, I mean, every day is a new day and it's a learning experience every single day. So there's no way that we can teach everything to everybody in a short span of time, but it gives you the basic foundation of what it is. It also gives you the ability to appreciate how vast and interesting this industry is. Because the minute you actually go into office and start working, you will interact with people not just in Singapore, but all over the world. And that I can guarantee you, and that's a fascinating experience. And obviously, that exposure will give you and get you ready for the future as you go along, basically.
Absolutely. Okay, so last question before we let you go, all right?
Yeah.
In terms of on-the-job training, I mean, how important do you think on-the-job training is? Because like, I guess for many of us, we probably think, academic excellence is important, and for some of us, we might possibly think, academic excellence, right, is more important than on-the-job training. I mean, what's your view on this?
I'm a big believer in mentoring. I mean, when I came into the industry, the first company that I worked for was in Bangkok, a company called Precious Shipping. And I'm still in touch with my bosses. Of course, they are in the same business that I'm in. So I find that what I learned from them was not in textbooks, was not available for anybody else to get hold of. And that was because there was a personalized problem that I had. In some cases, I would go to them and saying, okay, I'm stuck now. What do I need to do here? Or they would guide me on certain issues which are happening, which were easy for me to understand because they could share personal experiences as to how they handle that problem. That's moving away now more and more. There's becoming a lot more technology, standardized induction programs in companies, less and less of one-to-one interactions. And obviously, that creates a gap in knowledge as well as experience. On-the-job training is able to provide that knowledge, that experience, and fill that gap up, because at the end of the day, you want a complete professional to enter the business. It doesn't help just the professional, it helps the industry as a whole. I still believe that every single time I've interacted with people in the ICS, for example, in the Institute of Chartered Brokers, we've always come up with some experiences, some highlights, some knowledge sharing, which has actually helped me as much as they've helped them. So I think that on-the-job training is going to be very crucial, and it is very crucial. Very few people get this opportunity. So I would really urge the students to grab it with both hands, because this is an amazing, amazing chance for you to get into the things by actually having serious senior people tutor and mentor you as well.
That's right. So on-the-job training, I mean, in school, academics, it probably just gives us the textbook answers. But of course, when we come to the actual role, the actual job, on-the-job training provides us with a holistic, comprehensive suite of solutions.
Yes, and you'll have experiences as well. There will be events happening around you. The first time one of the ships that I used to work for a company that had a ship that they owned got hijacked by the pirates in Somalia. And that was the first experience hands-on. I don't think anybody, any textbook can actually tell you what goes on there. But I learned a lot about what to avoid, how to word the contractual clauses to make sure that situations like these can be handled in the best possible way.
Wow.
Where do you get that? Where do you get that? You don't get it in a textbook.
That's true. So that's why on-the-job training, it's important. In fact, I think it's crucial.
It is.
Thank you, Mr. Oza. Thank you for joining us today. Joining us next will be Captain Subhanshu Dutt, the chairman of the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers. Now, besides being the chairman of the ICS, Captain Dutt has actually spent 50 years in the shipping industry. He had previously spent 18 years as a sailor and had also been the CEO of Pacific Shipping Trust. He was also the executive director of Krishnapatnam Port Private Limited, the largest private port operator in the whole of India. Today, he is not only the adjunct of SMU, but also the executive director of OM Maritime. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me to welcome Captain Dutt. Captain Dutt, nice to have you here with us, sir.
Thank you, Winston. My pleasure.
Captain Dutt, right, we know you spent about almost 50 years, or maybe even more than 50 years in the business. What made you decide to get started in the shipping business?
Okay, good question. So I started in 1969, that is close to 50 years. I was about 16 years old then, so I didn't have too many crazy ideas like becoming a YouTuber or an influencer. So, as I said, you only had a few choices, and you were pretty much driven by your parents or your father that, look, take this job, it's good, it'll make you a good career. So I joined the Maritime Academy then, training to be a ship seafarer.
Right. So, I mean, over these years, tell us a little bit more about your career in shipping and some of the things that really left a fond memory with you. There's some of the good and bad experiences that you might have had.
Okay, yeah. As I said, this job and this business of shipping is so diversified. It's every day is a new day, and every day is a new experience. So from the time I started sailing, and sailing itself was very different then, 50 years back. Why? You didn't have mobile phones, you didn't have internet, you didn't have email. So communication was either by letter or by for more urgent matters just by telegram,
yeah.
which is a very short and expensive method of communication. So it was that's how it was. I mean, if somebody's girlfriend ran away, he would know of it 3 months later, kind of things.
Or so, even if even if the wife at home gave birth,
yes,
you probably know
much later. Yes. So that is how the job was. In fact, if you ask me, you were much more focused on the work because you didn't have these distractions, and you're able to do your job better. Today, you see people doing their Facebook and simultaneously trying to do their job, and that becomes a distraction.
Because we call it multitasking.
Multitasking, yeah. And even the mind is divided, segmented into different distractions. So it was all along that way. About the time I finished sailing, we started getting email. That is about over 30 years back. Sailing itself was very interesting back then. You visited countries which you had only seen in geography books when you were in school, and pretty much saw the world. Ships, the job was more relaxed. There was less regulation, there was less compliance. I'll give you an example. When we joined ship back then, you needed only 2 documents. You needed your license to sail, and you needed your passport.
That's all.
That's all. Today you have that thick folder where you have many different certificates, many different compliance documents. Otherwise, you can't get onto the ship.
Wow.
So that was what it was. About 30 years back, when I'd finished 18 years, I felt it's time to have a change, to come ashore more, to cater to the family, and to settle down. So, and that was in Singapore. So I got an opportunity to work with a shipping line here, and I grabbed it because what we call show jobs were also few and far between. So one took the job, and then started working my way up. The company was Pacific International Line, PIL, and back then it was a very traditional homegrown shipping company. Over these 20 years I was there, it made its transition into a global container line. From being a very regional operator back then, it went to almost every country in the world.
Right. I mean, I see that shipping is like a globalized business. I mean, you do business with everywhere, across the world. So next thing that I want to ask you, how is shipping relevant to the world and even Singapore?
There is a saying that if you didn't have shipping, half the world would starve and the other half would freeze to death, because everything, your food, your grain, your meat, everything is moved by ships, And interestingly, the countries which have that in surplus, and there are countries which need it, and that's why you have to have shipping to move it across. And energy, oil and gas is also transported. So countries which are in the midst of winter need a lot of energy for their home heating. So that's where this saying comes. If you didn't have shipping, half the world would starve, or the other half would freeze. Yes.
Right.
And the good part is shipping is so efficient economically, cost-wise. So you may move foodstuff halfway across the world, but the transportation cost is insignificant to when it is delivered. So it isn't expensive either, and that makes it more affordable and more accessible to everybody.
Right. Okay, so the next question that I would like to check you, I mean, for us as individuals, how does shipping affect us?
Okay. As you also spoke with Punit, it has sort of penetrated our lives in a very imperceptible manner. One doesn't realize it, but you start from when you woke up this morning, you had your breakfast, you ate bread. Where did the flour come from? Probably Australia. You had a fruit. Where did the apple come from? From California.
Right.
And that's so that's how without realizing it's part of your daily life. You put on your clothes, your shoes. They have come from different places in the world, And
yeah, especially when Singapore produces
virtually
no
nothing.
natural resources.
No natural resources, yeah.
Absolutely.
Very little manufacturing, yeah. So you got into the MRT and came here. Where did the train come from? Probably Korea or Japan,
Right. Even the trains we have to bring in
that's
from
right.
somewhere.
Yeah, the taxi or the train, yes. The mask that you put on or the sanitizer that you used, that must have come from somewhere in some other country, probably China, probably somewhere else. So, yeah, and more so in Singapore, as you say, yes, it's more evident.
Okay, so last thing, I mean, you've got a wealth of experience. You went to sea as a sailor, and you became the CEO of Pacific Shipping Trust. You were an executive director previously. So now, what about the career progression that one can expect to have in this business?
To that end, Singapore is the right place because it's got a very robust maritime ecosystem infrastructure. There are close to 5,000 companies, of course, different sizes, dealing in the maritime business in Singapore. I think they employ close to over 150,000 people.
Wow.
That includes the port, the shipyards, the ship brokers, the shipping companies, ship managers, even shipping lawyers, shipping banks. So that's how diversified it is. And for a youngster starting a career, there are that many choices. So, like I said, I started as a seafarer and had the opportunity to head a company which is on the stock exchange, and that is very, very rarely one gets an opportunity. But firstly, being in the maritime business and being in Singapore, I think opens up a whole new world of opportunities.
Thank you, Captain Dutt. So, well, ladies and gentlemen, after having a little chat with Captain Dutt as well as Mr. Ozer earlier, we hope to have actually shared insightful information together with you. So for our friends out there, if you might want to find out a little bit more about the program, do visit our website www.ics.org.sg/WSP. My name is Winston. Take care and hope to see you again.